morning, guys. Just gonna kind of set the scene before we even hit the water. We're in fall, and I'd probably call this late fall right now. The one thing with late October going on into November is just the amount of stuff you can do, and there's a lot of temptation for a sportsman. One of the most productive types of fishing you can do this time of year, far and away, after doing it for years and years, is pan fishing, particularly crappie. And if you're on natural lakes in the Great Lakes region, they leave the shallows once the weeds start dying. Could be as early as the second or third week of September, but definitely by like MEA weekend, they drop down into basins. So I'm gonna take you through my basin program for number one, finding panfish, and we'll go through how to use all the different types of sonar technology available. And I hope that the content is relevant to you regardless of what fish finder you have or what boat you have. And then some key baits to quickly get on the fish and gauge their mood level. And as I said, I would probably put it right up there with the best time of the year for panfish, because in the springtime, things are fickle, you know, either they're up or they're not up. But right now, finding the fish is probably the most predictable that it is at any point in the year. So let's put the boat in and go hunting for crappie. All right, guys, you can see I have custom mapping on this screen here, the upper left quadrant, 2D sonar, down imaging, and mega side imaging. This is a Humminbird Solix 15. That 15-inch screen allows me to have every one of those technologies up at the same time, which makes it nice to learn the technology, to do quick associations between each. I know what a fish looks like on 2D sonar, so then it's easy for me to look at down imaging and understand what a fish looks like. Same thing with side imaging. So if you have a fish finder that just happens to have one of these technologies, you're in great shape. You can easily do what we're gonna go do. This lake isn't mapped, so I've taken the time to do that myself. And what you'll see out here is we're going through mid 20 feet range right now, and then that main basin's 30 feet. That's the deepest part of this particular lake. And we're gonna drive out into the basin and start looking for fish. I'm at 100 feet on side imaging. That would be fine, but I'm gonna narrow that in a little bit just to expand the picture, hopefully give me a little bit more detail. Let's drop that down to, let's go 60 feet. You can see I'm already starting to get into some life. There's a unique feature there. I've already dropped a waypoint on it. I don't know if it's an old piece of sunken timber or what. I'm getting some fuzz here. We're at the turnover period. Water temperature is right around 51 degrees. So definitely quite a bit of activity in the water column. I'd say invertebrate life coupled with minnows. And now I'm looking for bigger dots. Now those were definitely panfish there. Those individual bigger dots, those are definitely panfish. There they are on 2D sonar. And that weird bottom line that you're seeing, that's just density differences between that thermocline that has now sunk to the bottom. And all those fish are stacked like cordwood right above it. That's a huge school of fish. And I can still see fish on side imaging. So side imaging can be a real useful tool. You know, 35, 40 feet out, there's a pile of fish. They extend all the way out. And then there are some fish about 45 feet out, but then I start to go shallower on the contour. So I've already quickly defined where these fish are living. And you can see that's what's nice about having a map built. I can very clearly see there's a dividing line. Those fish want to be deeper than 25 feet. They're out in that basin. We're just gonna do another drive-by. Couple shallower fish. So you got some fringe fish on the edge of the basin. Huge school. Every dot represents a fish. 2D sonar, I can see that there's a lot of fish there, but I could literally stop my screen, zoom in, and count dots. Every dot is a fish. So I ran out of the fish there, but on that run on my track, there is a nice amount of fish that are in a little bit shallower water. So I'll favor those fish, so I'm not giving them barrel trauma. One of the core functions of live for me in these basin scenarios is to lead my boat to the fish so I can essentially ice fish them. fish over the top of them vertically. That allows me to make the most precise presentation to the fish, get my bait at the right level, which for panfish, you want your bait to be just above them and try to get them to break free from the school to come up and eat. So that's what I'm gonna do. Scanning around. Okay, let's see. 30 feet out, draw a line off the tip of my trolling motor, roughly 25 feet. I mean, I could make a cast there right now, but I'm just gonna take a moment and position the boat over the top of those fish. So we're coming up on those fish. I see the fish, and then I use my trolling motor to bring me on top of the fish. Now, if the fish are spooky, we'll maintain a good standoff. Here are the fish right here. They're starting to come into my 2D sonar cone. The 2D sonar cone, kind of like a flashlight, your diameter is roughly 1/3 of your depth. So you have a pretty good area. You can see there they are below me, there they are. Those are certainly catchable fish. And then as far as baits, I got 4 rods rigged right now. I'm usually gonna start my day with something heavy. I wanna drop down on those fish. So for me, it's either gonna be a jigging wrap. If I'm chasing crappie, it's gonna be a size 3. Gets down really quickly. Fish usually eat it. Another option would be a heavy spoon. Again, just something that I can get down on the fish quickly and kind of gauge their mood level, contact the fish. And if I need to go more finesse from there, I will. Bait's going down. There's a nice little wad of them on. Look at them come up on live. Oh, that was cool. Nice. That was a really aggressive strike. Just spot locked. A little nicer fish. Yep, we'll take him. Yeah, when they're eating the jigging wrap like that. That's a good thing. And a little scent on that treble hook doesn't hurt a thing. And I usually don't have to mess with live bait. You can see there, kind of looks like some marshmallows. Basically marshmallows for a kid. That's what panfish nibbles are to a crappie. We'll let that guy go. Got waxies. The other thing that I like a lot too is just some scent. So Berkeley Power Bait panfish nibbles. These things dissolve in the water. Just put one on each treble hook. Crappies will sometimes eat the entire bait. Sometimes they're gonna come up and nip it. That's gonna be a more manageable target for a bluegill, and you're gonna catch a lot of the crappies too that are coming up and just biting that treble hook. So that treble hook kind of becomes a lure, and if they're not willing to just eat the lead bait, definitely put something on that treble hook before you give up, because the delivery system is the most efficient out there for getting the bait in front of fish. We got some more down there, so I'm dropping down. That one's still pretty. Got him. Look at him coming up. Nice school below us. And a nice speck. I'm gonna boat flip this guy too. I'm gonna keep a couple for Jillian and the kids. So nice little 11-incher. It's a nice harvesting size, perfect fillet. Looks like he's been caught before. You can see that little lip tear there. Or running with a pike. We're coming up on a mother load. Just slowly crawling up with the trolling motor, nice and easy. Pretty cool, I can see my swivel end bait. I'm just running a 6-pound braid to a little section of 4-pound fluorocarbon leader, and I got a barrel swivel in line there just to manage line twist a little bit. You could do a line-to-line knot too, but these jigging baits in deep water, it's good to get rid of some twist. This guy feels decent. Oh yeah. Ooh. Huh? Just perfect eating fish. We're just gonna keep 5. But boy, out of cold water like that, and you can tell the water's kind of dark. They don't have a lot of color. Throw them in the live well, then they just turn into calico beauties. They're pretty pale. One of these guys is gonna go. Look at him. Just above him. Pause. Ooh, yeah, that's the right one. You know when you load into them too. Look at that. Little 13 Omen Panfish series just folded over. I guess I hyped it up a little bit, but just barely on that treble hook. It's a good hooking bait though. I mean, it's a forgiving bait. Bit. little guy. Still fun on light tackle. It's got this sweet little ultralight with a real light braid and fluorocarbon combo. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's fun having gear that's sized appropriate for the fish. Chasing panfish on a light setup, man, they tussle good. We're so used to bass fishing with heavy setups, 20-pound fluorocarbon, you know, for what isn't always a real big fish. So it is kind of fun downsizing to panfish gear and actually really enjoying the fight out of them. And you do want some sensitivity for this. A lot of your bites are little lift bites where you don't feel anything. I don't even really know what to say. Spaghetti, Christmas trees, whatever you want to call it. There's hundreds of fish out in front of the boat right now. So just for the sake of demonstration, I want to see what a down view mode looks like. And that's going to basically turn that transducer so it's looking straight down, and it's going to spread that beam out. In a scenario where you might use that is if I had another person up here and we were on a big school of fish and we both wanted to video game that same school. It makes it a little easier to just kind of keep our baits within the field of view for the video gaming. It's just a lot of fun and you get to see how the fish move on the bait. But since we're on that big school right now, that's a good time to go ahead and make that shift. And with Mega Live, all I need to do is pivot this transducer. So there's some tick marks on this side to help you indicate which mode you're in. So that's gonna be our down view mode. Makes sense, looking straight down. And then I'm just gonna hop into my menu and we're just gonna change the mode. So Mega Live mode, check, down, check. And here it gives me a nice little image of the different modes. So we have down mode, forward mode, and a landscape mode. And there's all those fish laid out below us. I'm looking about 30 feet out. So there's a lot of fish. Let's drop down and see what it looks like. Down I go. Oh, here they come. It's gonna happen. Ooh, nice. Scrappy one. Kyle's getting ready to catch one. He's getting quite eager to go catch one of these guys. This is a good time. They're eating it. I mean, it's fun watching those fish rise up so quickly. You can kind of gauge their mood by how quickly they're moving on the bait. And, you know, 2D sonar, you can kind of determine that, but it's crazy with live. You get so much more information about their behavior. You just learn a lot about fish and you make good adjustments. So we have some nice fish right here, about 4 feet out. And with this mode, I'm just gonna drop straight down below that transducer. You can see I'm gonna interact with these fish that I was just pointing out. Nice size fish, don't have any bait. Let's see if I can get them to bite. That might be a pike. That's a big mark there. Look, that could be 2 pike. Oh yeah, that's a pike. Look at it, I got him hot on the bait. Look at him chasing that bait. Huh? Can't tell me that that's not exciting. Again, and what do? You catch them. Or is this just a really big crappie? Yeah, this is a really nice crappie. Whoa, that's the right one. High riding fish, usually the biggest and most aggressive. That's our nicest fish of the day. Not a true giant, but I kind of like gauging, you know, what a trophy is based on the lake I'm fishing. So on this lake, this particular lake, hey, that's a beautiful crappie. Take him all day long. Boy, look at the big eyes. Very efficient sight feeders. And he was definitely hunting that jigging wrap going side to side, and he had a buddy with him too. We're gonna let this one go. I don't need to keep him. No worse for the wear.
Oh, that's gotta be
getting competitive.
That's gotta be it.
Bigger the mark, the bigger the fish. That's a big mark. Come on, bite. Bite, baby. Got him. Nice. Nice crappie. Cool that you can kind of selectively size them up. You know, that's a solid fish here. We're gonna actually hand grab her out of respect for her delicate lips. Look at that, cool. I mean, she showed up as a big mark in down mode. For that reason, just a nice dinner plate crappie out of the school. We got a nice range of sizes down here, but you know, that's a nice quality fish for the part of the country we live in. Let her go. There you go, girl. I just want to walk through the core setups that I have on my deck, and this is what I have on my deck pretty much all fall if I'm pan fishing, always. So first setup here, jigging wrap, either a number 2 or a number 3, depending on what I'm chasing. Now sometimes if the crappie are finicky, you got to go down to a number 2. Generally speaking, I want to fish a number 3 because it gets down quicker, and crappie have no problems eating that. And you'll catch plenty of bluegill too on that belly treble hook, especially if you have it tipped. As far as the rod setup, I like a light power rod, you know, any nice light power rod. This happens to be a little 13 Fishing Omen. I wouldn't necessarily call it a fast action, probably more of a moderate, but you know, I'm fishing a jigging wrap, that's treble hook. So similar to fishing a crankbait or any other trebled baits, having a little bit slower taper makes sense. It prevents tearing some of those hooks out. And some of the crappie we've caught today are skin hooked in the mouth. So I am fishing braid, and that's another reason for the slower action rod. The deal with the braid is this is a 6-pound, real small diameter braid. It gets down, cuts the water really easily. It's Suffix 832, which isn't an overly buoyant braid either. So it gets down quick. And the big thing with line in deep water is bite transmission. If I was fishing monofilament or straight fluorocarbon, you know, with greater than 30% stretch, a lot of that bite factor is absorbed by the line and you really don't even feel it. I mean, we're dealing with panfish in cold water, and if you've ever ice fished before, you realize a lot of your bites are not even perceptible. So our fish are a little bit more active. I mean, 50-degree water temp, bluegill and crappie are pretty happy now, so I am getting good bites, but the braid helps to transmit the bite to the rod tip. A lot of your detection is by sight, looking at your rod tip, whether it's a lift bite that straightens the rod out or a little downward tap. 8-pound or 10-pound, I think that's too heavy. A 6-pound braid is probably the ideal. And I like one with a lot of picks per inch or a fine weave. Leader, I have about a 6 to 8 foot section of fluorocarbon. I prefer 4-pound to a little barrel swivel. And then I have that jigging wrap to a little VMC snap there just for quick bait exchange. Next setup, this is just a little 16th ounce jig, and I kind of keep that open-ended. I have a ton of different plastics in the boat at the ready. So I'll usually fish a jig in a minnow or a jig in a plastic when water temps are a little bit warmer and those fish are still relating to like shoreline vegetation, just because I'm covering water. But in this deeper water situation, that 16th ounce jig doesn't get down nearly as quick. That said, there's times where the fish do want a slow fall rate. Like if they weren't active like they are today, I need to slow that fall rate. So I would pick up that 16th ounce jig and give it a try with some different plastics. Similar to the jigging wrap is a spoon. This little guy here, a VMC rocker spoon, heavy metal, lead, similar to the jigging wrap. Boy, that thing gets down fast. Ice anglers are pretty accustomed to seeing those little dropper spoons, so that thing's more of a delivery system than anything. It's got some nice UV colors. The backside is glow. If I'm fishing at night or in dingy water, I think that can be a factor. And then down here on the business end, small little octopus hook. I can put whatever I want on it, whether it's a plastic, kind of like what I'm doing today, a little crappie nibble, a waxworm, an angleworm, a minnow, whatever you want. That's the business end of it. This thing gets it down to where the fish are at right now. And then, you know, you get a little bit of finesse with this setup. So not a bad option just to get a bait in front of the fish, and we'd be catching them just fine on this today. And then lastly, when the bite gets tough, and I'd say this is kind of your segue into ice fishing, is kind of what we'd use ice fishing. This is a little 16th ounce jig. This guy is a VMC Tubby, I believe. I'm gonna go ahead and take that little probe worm off, and you can see 16th ounce jig, but it has a decent gap on it. And that's key with crappie. You know, if you fish too small of a little ice jig, you're gonna lose some fish just because you don't have gap to get purchase in their mouth. If I had to fish it 20 to 25, 30 feet of water, yeah, it's a little painstaking getting that to sink, but it will. It's tungsten, so it's got a pretty compact form factor and you can get it down. And sometimes you just have to go finesse like that to get bites, especially as this water temperature keeps dropping. The other one that I don't have rigged up that we've also had huge success with in the fall months are lipless crankbaits. And a lot of lipless crankbait companies have caught on to it now, but little micro lipless crankbaits are an awesome bait for both bluegill and crappie. They got the right combination of sound and profile, and you'll catch some of the biggest fish in the system on those baits. So another case for using a bigger bait like this spoon here or a jigging wrap is just the surface area. You get more of a sonar signature return back to your boat, whether you're using 2D sonar or the forward imaging technology. So a little bit better feedback allows you to see the bait more easily. You can kind of video game the bait better around the fish than you can with some of those real tiny little micro baits like a 16th ounce or a 32nd ounce jig. You can see that flat surface there. You get a nice beam back.